Among my many professional liabilities was the fact that I was, and probably remained, the only employee in the history of the National Basketball Association who didn't actually know anything about basketball, nor about basketball players, nor the sport's emergent cultural importance, nor any of the basic rules or techniques of the game. I was a Cleveland Cavaliers ball boy who possessed no intrinsic loyalty to the home team, and who, most nights, was more interested in the contents of the Gatorade bucket than the presence of Larry Bird or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the visitors' locker room. I identified Abdul-Jabbar as the guy with the goggles, and Bird as the guy who really should reconsider that mustache. I knew what a Cavalier was. I devoted a great deal of my youth to reading about people who carried swords and wore capes and feathers and rode horses. As a result, I had yet another question about this enigmatic organization that employed me. My emergent sense of place told me I lived in a region fiercely proud of its grittiness and its blue-collar sensibilities and its disdain for foppishness and pretense. Even though the Cavaliers didn't actually play in Cleveland, they played in a cold, rigid concrete tank called the Coliseum, another curious non sequitur, in a rural suburb called Richfield. They were Cleveland's team, and I knew Cleveland as a city with a tall, flaming black steel factory smokestack. None of this evoked the gallantry of the Cavaliers I knew from books. One of the things I've always said about Akron is Akron has everything, but it only has one of everything. So there's always only been one rock club in Akron, but there's never not been one, even if we had to make one up in a VFW hall or something. Book of Essays is kind of a poisonous term in New York publishing, and Rust Belt is kind of something they're like, what's that? Is that the thing that you wear that matches your rust shoes during Fashion Week? Explains us, because we understand LeBron James in a unique way, and in a complex way, and it's a way that says a lot about us. LeBron James was born almost exactly the same moment the term Rust Belt was born, in what I think of as the quintessential Rust Belt city, one of the first cities to become what those cities were. So I wanted to try to write about why his departure hurt so bad and why it was so meaningful here, and it didn't have that much to do with basketball. So that essay is very little about basketball. And also why his coming back here would mean something different than just, the simple superficial story of the hometown player coming back to his team and, being the champion. The question is, the book is dedicated to my friend John Puglia, who's a recurring character, real-life character in the book, and why it's dedicated to him and what he means to the book. Well, John was my best friend from, kind of high school through college and onward, and we came of age in Akron as college students that you could just leave the University of Akron campus, which was then called Akron U, and go down into a downtown that was like a set from the movie Mad Max. It was just this abandoned, decrepit, decadent wasteland that didn't seem like anything but beauty and possibility. And John was an artist and I was a writer, so we're going to write about this and make art about this, and it's all ours. Nobody else wants it anymore. He was a constant in the writing of this book. I interviewed him. He gave me research materials. I traded stories with him. And so he became almost like a collaborator on this book. And so John got sick and died of cancer last summer. And so that's why, it's hard to talk about, but it's also very important. I mean, for that to happen 9 months ago, eight or 9 months ago, and still to be grieving your best friend who was much too young to die that way, but also to know that, by fate, I guess, this document can come out and be a celebration of him is really great. And I have to tell you, like, a slightly poignant story about tonight. This is the last time that one of these main events is going to get to happen at 7 o'clock, which is a really good time for a program like this, because the state funding has been cut and the library's had to cut its hours. We got to do it tonight at 7 because it was booked last year, so we were grandfathered. But from now on, it seems like a small thing, but it's an erosion of what we've come to enjoy culturally that we're given by people who really care, and that's being taken away in little bits and pieces by people who don't really care. So, thank them on your way out and support them and support the levies. And if you see your legislator or your governor, tell them we need universities and libraries.